modern industrial capitalism is what has been created in the United States of America after the American Civil War. The industrialization took place before the Civil War in the antebellum years. We know that, we've studied that. What this is modern industrial capitalism. MIC if you want. Some people loved it, other people hated it, but there were a series of responses to it that are extraordinarily important to understand. Those responses are the subject of this mini lecture right here. The modern industrial capitalism created was so dynamic, so amazing, that we will see it also in the response of American labor unions to the situation created. But that's tomorrow night's lecture. Tonight we're looking at the response to modern industrial capitalism. And the response is a very interesting one, because the response happens both in Europe and here in the United States. If you were in Europe at the time, a new philosophical thought is created. And the guy's name is Herbert Spencer, who creates it. The parallel in the United States of America is William Graham Sumner. And both of these say modern industrial capitalism is absolutely fantastic, because it reflects the natural order of life, of biology, of the world. It reflects the natural order of science, because the theory of evolution, as we know it, had just been created. 1850, 1870, Charles Darwin in England is developing the theory of evolution, that the species, given the environment, evolves over time, adapts over time to that environment, and that the giraffe with the longer neck will propagate and live on rather than the giraffe with the shorter neck. And that over time, longer neck giraffes adapt to their environment, are more fit to their environment. And over those millions of years, given that environment, we have long-necked giraffes who can reach higher in the trees to get the leaves to survive. It's that adaptation to the environment that allows for the theory of evolution, allows for us to say that species adapt, evolve over time. Well, the logical thing that happens is that that theory is applied to human society. And that theory, when applied to human society, occurs at exactly the time that Western civilization needs it most, because Western civilization in Western Europe is taking over the world. Imperialism is happening. On what basis can it be justified that we are taking over another country? Because we are more fit, because we have adapted better to our environment than other races. Remember, there is no such thing as race. It was entirely created by Europe in the late 1700s into the 1800s. And so we say that a certain race is better than another because it's more fit. And that within each race, certain ethnicities are more fit than others. Well, that application of Darwinism to human society is called social Darwinism. And it became a craze in Europe and in America in the late 1800s. And Sumner especially said it allows for the capitalist, the industrialist, the tycoon, the titan, to understand why he has so much wealth and why so many are so poor. Because he's more fit. Now, if you look at it, everybody will agree with that. You have to examine your own thought. You think you will succeed based on your ability. And you will succeed because you're more capable than somebody else. And we believe that as Americans. The Protestant work ethic taught us that our success is determined by our hard work and our ability. That gets us to heaven. And we all believe that as Americans. When you look at it, though, is success determined by the individual at one time being more fit, rather than species over millions of years adapting to a neutral playing field? Because is it really determined that John D. Rockefeller succeeded because he was more fit, or did he lie and cheat and steal his way to the top? And think of the analogy on the basketball court. Hey, I'm playing a one-on-one game, and what if the referee's rules were unfairly advantaging me? And what if I, during the course of the middle of the basketball game, took out the knife and put it into the gut of my opponent? I win, I'm more fit. Is that really Darwinistic theory over time, over millions of years, where a species overall is adapted? So the application is powerful because it gives the rationale for Europe to take over the world. And it gives the rationale for the tycoons to say we're in power because we're better. But it's extraordinarily problematic. And my opinion, and 25 cents will get you a cup of coffee, it is so utterly wrong it boggles the mind. It cannot be true. It is not true and should never be taken as gospel. The next step of the response is very interesting, and that is the popularization of industrialization. And that comes through a series of books by a guy named Horatio Alger. And Horatio Alger was the author. The dime novel was all popular. I don't know the modern equivalent. Housewives of New Jersey, whatever that show was, Duck Calling Calls, whatever those shows are. This was the popular show of the time. This was the dime novel that everyone read, that was extraordinarily popular. And it had in it that person that we all could believe in, that went from rags to riches based on who he was. We all believe in it. It was the popularization of modern industrial capitalism that said, you too can go from rags to riches. And it was captured by Horatio Alger, where the luck and the pluck, the stick-to-itiveness, and the virtue of that ragamuffin boy will allow him to become the executive. And every story is the same. He's on the dock. He's not doing the bad things the other young boys are doing. He's trying to fish or do something, and the tycoon's daughter falls into the water, and he saves her, and through his pluck and determinativeness through bad times, becomes the hard-working young man at the corporation who works his way up and becomes the millionaire. That story, I think we all tell us to this day, is what drove so many people at the time period and said, this is great. There was a final very positive response to modern industrial capitalism, and that was popularized by Andrew Carnegie. Yes, Carnegie, not Carnegie. And Andrew Carnegie put forward the gospel of wealth. This term is his. The term is one that he used. The term is one that perfectly captures the era, which is to be rich is to be holy. To be rich demonstrates one's goodness. And he had a specific take on that. And one can posit that in America, going back to the Puritan New England, going back to the Protestant work ethic. We value in America, we think good in America, those people who make money. I think that is what we as Americans believe in, that your luck, pluck, and virtue will get you success, and you're a good moral person, and that those who are wealthy are those who are good. We don't celebrate loser high school history teachers, we celebrate Bill Gates. He is the man, Phil Knight, whomever we want to, Steve Jobs. And so that gospel of wealth had a very specific application under Andrew Carnegie. And it's fascinating, because he personally made $400 million personally to him when he sold his company to J.P. Morgan. $400 million going into his pocket. And he had that money because he made that money as the steel tycoon, as we've already discovered. He said, I got that money because God gave it to me because I earned it. But I hold it in trust for all those people out there in society who worked along the way. I made the money, I hold it, but I hold it in trust for them. And for me to die with that money in my pocket is to die disgraced. In other words, I must do something with the money. It's very, very American. If you look at it, the death tax that we talk about, why not tax the person at the death, taking away every bit of wealth they have and putting it back into society? Because we all should start at the same level. I shouldn't be better off simply because Daddy was rich and Daddy made money, and I get to be rich because Daddy made money. That's totally undemocratic. The democratic idea is that we all start at ground zero and work our way up towards riches through our luck and pluck and virtue. And so Carnegie puts this into form, and he writes it, and you should have read it in your American Spirit, and he says, to die rich is to die disgraced. You can't take it with you. You shouldn't take it with you. But never give charity. Never, ever, ever, ever give charity to somebody. Rather, what you have to build with that money are the ladders of success for the people out there in society. That you have to build the library, build the park, build the academic institution that will allow the other person to come in and succeed. You don't give them charity, because that destroys who they are as a person. You provide the opportunity for them. And if only we had listened to this on the first day of school, because maybe Arrested Development could have helped us with give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day. Teach a man how to fish and he'll eat for a lifetime. That's the gospel of wealth, as put forward by Andrew Carnegie. Guess how much of the $400 million he put away, that he gave to other people? $350 million got given away by Andrew Carnegie. That's philanthropy. And now you ask yourself, what about our current titans of industry? Bill Gates giving it away, Phil Knight giving it away, Steve Jobs giving it away. Are the current people making all this money, are they the kind of philanthropic member of the community that Andrew Carnegie was, back with his gospel of wealth? And then finally, Short mentioned they used to be really popular on the AP exam. I don't know if they're going to be there anymore, but Henry George very eloquently argued for a single tax. Whatever you own, you need to pay a tax on. Be it property, be it wealth, you have amalgamate all of your wealth and you'll get a single tax on that, whatever that rate is, 1%, 2%, 5%. And Henry George was very, very popular with the Protestant poverty idea in 1879. The other one wrote a novel, a science fiction novel actually. Edward Bellamy put ourselves 100 years in the future, and he was looking back and backward, and he came up with this brilliant analysis of our current society saying, it doesn't quite work. There are too many wealthy people, there are too many poor people, there's no in between, and there are problems. So the response to modern industrial capitalism is distinctly American in a variety of ways. It's very, very interesting, and is very important to understand. The other response is the part of labor unions, and that's our lecture for tomorrow.